Good morning. It's Monday morning, the 28th of March. It's about 6 o'clock or so in the morning. I slept pretty good through the night. I hope you did too. I think of all kinds of things to tell folks, to tell you folks, to get on video and to wake people up, to bring things to your attention. And of course, those thoughts pass rather quickly, and I don't remember them. Some of those occur during my sleep. I would recommend that you speed these videos up. I'm talking too slow for myself in some ways. What I want you to know and what you need to know are probably a couple of different things. I used to pray before therapy sessions. I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't pray out loud. And my prayer was really simple. I didn't know Yahweh's name at the time. I just prayed to God at the time. And so my prayer was that I acknowledged that God knew more about a man than I ever could. That there was so much to a man that I would never really understand another man. I would certainly never know it all. And I would pray that God would give me the message that this soul that was going to appear in front of me needed to hear. In other words, I was praying to do God's will. I was praying to deliver the message that God wanted this individual to hear right then and now. And when I did that, some magical things happened. I was actually able to get pretty good reads on people, good reads on these men, and sometimes it would just be instant. Sometimes it was like a flash. Sometimes it would take a little while. But I would usually listen to the gentleman in front of me for approximately 15 minutes. I want to remind you that I was working at that point in the Arizona State prison system. These fellows that were coming in to see me, I wasn't going to be able to spend much time with them. And as a matter of fact, I probably wasn't even going to be able to see them again. I was working in a level 5 maximum security, and these inmates moved in and out real fast. Typically, they were placed in there while they were reclassified and processed and placed throughout the state prison system. I worked inside the walls. That's what they called them at Florence. I understand that prison's closed down now. It really was a unique place. It was pretty archaic. And in case you're wondering, it really was the old territorial state prison. The territorial prison in Yuma was moved from Yuma to Florence, Arizona. The town of Florence had an opportunity. They could either become a university town or a prison town. And the residents, I believe, elected to become a prison town. There's a lot of jails out there, penitentiaries out that way. You've got federal and you've got state. You have private and you have the state public. I don't think there should be any private prisons. I believe that if we as a society are going to imprison people, that we have to do it ourselves, that we shouldn't be farming it out. For one thing, the idea of holding a man for profit doesn't appeal to me very much. However, that's basically what the state does anyway. The state is able to make more money off the incarceration of an inmate than what it costs them. The federal government reimburses the states at a much higher rate per day for the inmate incarcerated than what it costs the state. So it's a money maker for the state. The state is highly motivated to maximize the occupation of its penitentiaries because it's a moneymaker for the states. That's not a very moral thing. It's talk about moral hazard, talk about unethical. I mean, you've got people motivated to screw other people over in order to make money. I guess that's what the United States has become today, to screw people over to make money, because everywhere I turn, that's what I see. I believe that if a county, the basic jurisdictions, uh, most jails are county jails. If the county wants to imprison a man, if the crime is that serious, then I believe the county has to pony up. The county has to pay up. The county needs to foot the bill. Why? Because if you're making money off it, then you're motivated to put somebody in there who's not guilty. And as far as the false positives, the false convictions, I would estimate that around the country, before this particular period of time, we were running at about a 10% false conviction rate. In other words, 10% were not guilty, yet processed through and imprisoned anyway. In Arizona, I think it's closer to 20%. Arizona's got the worst reputation for prisons in the country outside of the Deep South. Mississippi, the prisons there actually have a lot more humanity to them than these above ground dungeons do in Arizona. Texas gets a pretty bad rap on their prisons as well. And I know psychologists who came from the Texas penitentiary, so they are pretty bad. Some places like Idaho, the penitentiaries are a lot more civil. People are a lot more sane up there. They're a lot nicer. It's just considerably more respectful. Um, if you really want to reduce recidivism, there's a few things that we could do as a society. We could reduce criminality, and there's several things that we could do. But nobody wants to take those because everybody's used to making big money off this criminal injustice system. The judges, the courts, law enforcement, everybody gets to make a good living off this. So they're having a good time at our expense. Not a good thing. If you go back to biblical law, the death penalty in biblical law is so rampant that you wouldn't have penitentiaries. You wouldn't have people in prisons like you do today. They would either be above ground walking freely and minding their P's and Q's, or they'd be below ground. You'd be executing them. A lot of the crimes today that are occurring really should have capital punishments. The recent crime that was committed against me last year by a couple of gentlemen conspiring against me, sure, I'd like to see them killed, but then on the other hand, I don't. What do I want to tell you? If you want to reduce criminality, you have to reduce fatherless parenting. That's the one. That's the one cause. That's the cause of criminality. I know I'm not supposed to say it's causal. I can just say it's correlated. Well, the study, the award-winning study, was published in 2001 in the American Psychologist, the Journal of the American Psychologist, for the American Psychological Association. Really should call them the American Psychological bunch of jackasses. They run that place to harm the country. Psychology has been used to destroy these United States of America. And if you want to know the gentleman in particular or the family in particular, go read Carol Quigley's big book. Get the hardback cover, and you'll see a particular family listed in there by name as being instrumental in taking this nation down for the New World Order. Oh, the name is Seligman. Just so that you know, that's the family name. Carol Quigley misspelled it by one letter. I'll let you figure out who the people are. What I want you to know is in this award-winning study by Lykken, Lykken, called On Parental Licensure, that, folks, was an insulting, disappointing title, because here's the man advocating for another license. The state's going to license you to be a parent. What a novel concept. I mean, how much more control do you want? Um, do we dare call that communistic? Perhaps. Or is it capitalistic? You can do whatever you want as long as you're paying us a license for it. Or is that the Roman system, a vestige of the Roman form of government, or the Babylonian form of government, or the Egyptian form of government? I think we've got the worst of the worst culminating inside the United States of America today, because you have to have a license for everything. A license, licentiousness. A license means giving you a pass, a permit, permission to do something which is otherwise illegal, against the law. Licentiousness. And of course, you people that think that Jesus saves by grace, grace, grace. Well, yes, there's some grace. Sure, there's definitely some latitude. But you're not given a license to sin. You're not given a license to commit crimes. Are you forgiven for those? Well, look around the society. I don't think so. You've heard of karma? Well, it's instant quite often. So I don't think people get away with that much. The concept in early Christian club was divine retribution, instant retribution. The aspect of karma was taken out at the time of Emperor Constantine out of the church. Why did he take it out? Well, the Emperor Constantine had a wife, and his wife came literally from the streets. He picked up a streetwalker. He picked up a woman from the streets, and she had some bad habits. She had an interesting set of pastimes. And one of the pastimes was that she liked to play in the dungeon. Yeah. She liked to torture people in the dungeon of the palace, and she did horrible, wicked things. And the emperor didn't want his wife suffering karma, divine retribution. So that concept was eliminated from Christianity early on. As you can see, the saying, never east and west, never shall the twain meet. That's kind of an interesting. I'm going to decline this call. I hate it when these people call me early in the morning like this. I will be calling them and telling them, do not call me in the early hours of the morning. It's for a medicine that I take. It's actually a Super B vitamin that I wish I could sponsor them. Back when I had a license, they would give it to me for free. Now I spend about $175 for it every 3 months. It's designed to cross the blood-brain barrier and reduce histamines in the brain, thereby reducing inflammation, reducing the risk of stroke. I had 2 strokes in 2006. I don't intend to do it again. It's no fun. However, that's the off-label recommendations of Dr. Toffel, a neurologist who brought this to my attention and gave me some samples. I've been taking it ever since. It is actually on label for helping short-term working memory or short-term memory. It's actually on label for helping memory. However, Medicare actually covered it for about 6 months. Well, not quite 6 months, maybe 6 weeks. But they decided to stop covering it. Why? The only thing that these health insurance companies and this medical system will recommend are poisons, chemicals that treat, they work on the basis of toxicity and disabling. So you take something good and they're not going to help you with it. They took it away. They did issue a generic replacement for it. I got the generic. It didn't smell right. Something about it just wasn't that stable. I'm not going to tell you about it because I tried to get them to sponsor my show. It's a major pharmaceutical company. And the problem was they decided they were going to combine it with one of their psych meds and market it that way because they could make a lot more money as a antipsychotic. Oh, by the way, folks, antipsychotics really don't help people with their psychosis much. They're basically major tranquilizers and they downregulate. And they do that by basically a sledgehammer effect. So it's like trying to kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. And we've looked at the dendrons, the neurons, and all that stuff under microscopes. And what ends up happening is that instead of those rich root-like, hair-like connections, the lecta, what you end up with is a sewer pipe. It preens the neurons off it preens those rich connections off the neuron. So it basically destroys the brain. Now, if that's treatment, no, it's not good treatment. So I'm going to tell you that right now. Back to the point. If you want to reduce criminality, you have to stop the fatherless parenting. We could do that by automatically awarding custody to the fathers during a divorce, which we should do. We really should do that. The women are using them as a cash cow. They want to make money and profit off it. The problem is that a boy raised by his mother alone has a 70% chance, according to Lycan, of problems with the criminal justice system. What I want you to do, and I'm going to be watching the video because these damn intrusive messages come up. I've got to figure out how to shut those off. Anyway, Lycan held constant for all of the variables. It was a longitudinal study, meaning it was conducted over decades. They looked at the policies, the trends, and the criminal justice system, including that one that Biden, your president, he's not my president, put into play a long time ago of 3 strikes and you're out, which incarcerated a lot of black men in particular. Oh, yeah, and they went after crack because they made it a harder sentence in particular, to target the blacks in particular. Yes, there's been a lot of disparate targeting and treatment of the blacks and the whites both. We've got a bunch of jackasses in D.C. They don't understand anything about equality. They don't care about the effects of their laws. They just want feel good, make them look good kind of laws. And sadly, we get suckered into it and we pass stupid ass laws that make life harder for us. We think we're making it harder for the other son of a bitch, but no, you're making it harder for yourself. They always put that little twist in there. They stick that knife in and put a little twist in there because they want you to suffer. They want you to sucker in. They want you to give them more power. Anyway, Lycan held constant for all the variables in the study. And what they discovered is criminality had nothing to do with socioeconomic status. Okay, so poor people, that doesn't matter that much. Oh, they looked at education. Education didn't matter either. Okay, as a matter of fact, the guys that are in prison are just the ones that are stupid enough you can catch them. The big criminals are working in the corporations and in D.C., in your state governments. Those are the big criminals. They're smarter. We can't catch them. They get away with it. So most of the criminals are out of that. Oh, by the way, I will thank Dr. Lewis Masser for his kind tutelage, and that was one of the adages he said, and the man was wise. He was the smartest out of all of my superiors, my supervising psychologist when I was getting trained up. I do miss him quite a bit. Just a little bit older than I am, and I hope his health as well. So most of your criminals walk around freely. You don't catch them. The guys that you're putting away and punishing are the dumb ones. They're just not as intelligent. Okay, what else did he hold constant for? Oh, religion. Religious belief had nothing to do with criminality. The one thing that was the one domain criteria, the one aspect was fatherless parenting. So boys reared by intact family, mother and father together, lifetime criminal justice system incident of merely 6%. 6%. Intact family, mother and father raising the boy together. We don't have the stats for girls, but I assure you, if we did, ladies, you'd have a cow. And you would insist that the fathers take your daughters too, because look at your daughters today. Do you like what you're seeing? Do you like how they're turning out? I don't like it. I don't think you like it either. Anyway, back to the point. Mother, head of household, rearing a male child by herself. Lifetime criminal justice system incidents. Take a guess at the rate. Hold on to your socks. 70%. That's a sentence. That's a sentence that's not a very fair sentence. So basically, this society isn't running on the science, and psychology is a science, and it's not actually a soft science. It's actually one of the hardest sciences there is. We've got really good guidelines for that. I wish I could remember all that stuff I studied a while back. I really do, and I had to part with my books recently, most of them. They had my notes, and that would help me as well. Anyway, 70% of the boys raised by mother alone. So, that's not in society's best interest, is it? Is it? Is it? It's not. We have to build more prisons because of that. We also incarcerate more people in the United States of America. More of our people are incarcerated and on paper are in this criminal justice system than all other nations in the world. And we thought the communists were bad? Anyway, head of household, father. Father alone rearing his sons. Guess what the lifetime criminal justice system incident is? Take another guess. 6%. It's the same as if the family was together. So you're telling me that mothers have to be awarded their sons when we know 70% of them are going to turn into criminals? Mother's going to raise entitled, spoiled children. By default, mother is attached to that child stronger than the father because it was part of her body. She carried the child. She's going to accept whatever that child does. The child, her child, can do no wrong. So, I advocate that child custody should automatically be given to fathers. Sole custody automatically awarded to fathers so these women can't screw with the fathers anymore and use them to get back at them, because you women do not play fair. You just don't play fair. You don't fight fair. There's nothing fair about you except maybe your beauty. Maybe your skin color might be fair. Maybe you pretend you're fair, but you don't fight fair. My God, a cat fight's got to be the worst thing in the world. Women are far more competitive than we men are. They're predatory. Men can be noble. Women, I don't know. I just don't know. I think they were back in my grandmother's days. That's for sure. I had two grandmothers that were quite different from each other. So, I believe that we'd be better off with awarding custody to the father. Now, as far as girls go, we don't have the statistics. And not only do we not have the statistics, we don't even see a replication of Likens' study, which should be going on. Oh, by the way, he held constant for all the trends, including the 3 strikes you're out and all of that. What he discovered, what we discovered looking at his data, is there's a bump in criminality. There's a crime surge in 1964. And as my dear friend Andy, Edwin Kroger, pointed out to me when I showed him this study, he asked me, what else happened in 1964? We took prayer out of schools in 1964, and we suffered for it. We had a bump in crime, a huge surge in crime after that. So you think you need to take prayer out of schools? Take the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools? I just don't know why we are tolerating the destruction of the American way. I believe that if we had the studies in, if we had the social studies, the psychological studies in about girls, about daughters, that we would find that the outcomes for girls is much worse than the outcome for boys. Much, much worse. Why is that? Well, the bond between father and daughter is magical. I mean, the bond between father and daughter is one of those things that really can't be broken. Likewise, the bond between mother and son is a very strong bond. We also know that children script from their opposite gender parent. In other words, they take on the personality, the traits of their opposite gender parent. In other words, boys take after mothers, girls take after fathers. We also know that a child, I'm going to try to explain this, and it's been so long since I thought as a psychologist that I don't think I can get this across, but in object relations psychology, which I studied, we basically learned that the love object, if you will, was the one that reached across the barrier. And so what we know is that the bond between mother and child is pretty automatic because she's carried the baby in her body for that length of time. The child can do no wrong in her eyes. The child is always going to be right. Mother's always going to be forgiving. Mother's always going to be enabling. She's always going to be giving permission to the child when she should not. On the other hand, since father traditionally has been the disciplinarian and he hasn't carried the child, there's a little bit of a gap between father and child. So what the baby has to do is bridge that gap. Now, I know you folks are going to say, no, the father's got to do it. It's his job. It's his responsibility. No, folks, it works the other way around much more than what you ever would realize. The baby has to get the reaction from the parents. It's easy to get the reaction from mom. It's automatically there. She's going to coo, she's going to coddle, she's going to do all this stuff. Well, generally speaking, don't worry, there's some pretty cold women out there, some mothers that just don't do the right things. I mean, that's not the majority, but there is that. But with father, he didn't carry the child. And there's a bit of a gap there. The bond between father and child is not so automatic. It's not so absolute. The father is going to be more rational, less emotional. So he's actually going to require a little bit more soothing. He's going to require a little bit of love, a little bit of reaching out. This child has to reach out and get this reaction from her love object, from her father. Mom, it's automatic. Father, the child actually has to succeed. And when the child succeeds in getting father's reaction and father's love, it builds that child up. It's been so long since I thought about these things. I don't think I thought about that since I was in undergraduate school for psychology in the 80s. If you want to save America, we build the family up. You want to build the family up and you want to empty out these prisons and you don't want criminals running around, you build the father up. You give them custody. Oh, by the way, there's no family, no father that needs custody more than the black father does, the black family. We chased those men off. LBJ's The Great Society with his welfare state rewarded women for not having a father in the house. And so the provider for her she got married to the federal government. There should be no welfare at the federal level. That's not permitted to the federal government. That is exclusively reserved to the states, and it's best off administered locally. It used to be the local women, the local churches, they did that stuff. You knew your neighbors better because of it. You helped them out. You actually saw the good stuff you did. You actually saw that in effect at work. You didn't give money off to some nonprofit who, do you think the money went to where you wanted it to? Most of it doesn't get there. I think that we put that in the tax code so we could build those things up too. We shouldn't have done that either. Charity needs to be charity. There shouldn't even be a tax at the federal level. The country ran on duties, on tariffs and duties at the borders. That's what the country ran on. The other thing it also funded itself by was that the government minted coins. And when we minted coins, there was a sheet of metal there. And the coins came out of the bulk of it. But there was a little bit, and I can't remember the term for it, a little bit of flash metal left from the pressing. And as a result of pressing and minting that coin, the government owned the flash, the extra. That's what the government was paid. And the person who's owned that silver or owned that gold, they got the coins. And that's a tradition which we will go back to. I pray and hope we get to go back to honest money, to honest currency. You will not get very honest politicians until that happens. Every one of those people in the Washington District of Criminals needs to be walled inside that place and not let out again. They can have it for the lifetime. They can stay right there in that little 10 square miles. Nobody leaves that place. Man, I can't wait till people wake up, carry sheets of plywood down there and wall that place in. That would be one heck of a deal. Keep them all in there, and then we form a real organic government, according to the founders. We do the same with our states. We have to found proper governments, not corporations whose sole purpose is to get a profit, who are all incorporated under the same big corporation. There's only one corporation, only one corporation on the entire planet, and all that comes out of that city of Rome, the Vatican, canon law. I hope you young folks are able to grab a hold of what I'm saying and research it. I've gone over time a little bit. Forgive me for that. I hope you'll like these messages. I hope you'll like this and subscribe. Share these videos. I'm going to be dumping information on you as fast as I can. You need it. I would also beg you to help yourself by buying the best Bible in the world. The proper name version of the King James Bible it's excellent. It's without peer. You've got a far better, more accurate translation that will allow you to understand the truth that is in the Bible better than the other versions. Much better than all the other versions. It's important that we call upon his name. It's important that we know his name. The same with his son, Yeshua. Or was Jesus the Son of God? When people ask me that, and I know they're Bible readers, and we're at about the same level, or they might be above where I'm at, I tell them that if you read the Bible carefully in Luke chapter 3, go to the end of the chapter. Most versions of the Bible say, and Jesus, the son of Adam. No, I'm sorry. Adam, the son of God. That's what that chapter ends with. Folks, read your Bibles. Get familiar with it so you can understand me. Almost all of the major literature in the English language has references to the Bible. Without that foundation, you won't understand these things. We lose the inherent intuitive wisdom that is our inheritance. Claim your inheritance today. Be proud of your inheritance. There's nothing wrong with being who you are and what you are. There's nothing wrong with survival. There's nothing wrong with defending your own kind. There's nothing wrong with defending yourself. Yahweh blesses self-defense. He doesn't bless rebellion. We have to turn to Yahweh to fight against this beast system and to reclaim America. It is a spiritual battle only because we're forced to fight in the psychological realm. They are fighting in every other realm against us. Their war is an unlimited war. They've been using biological, they've been using chemical, radiation, electrical, electromagnetic. Everything that can be used as a weapon against us has been and is being used against us. They've been doing chemical warfare since they started these modern agricultural practices. They also put the chemistry in our clothes, fire retardants and all of that. They put the chemicals in our foods. What they love to use are metals, heavy metals. Why? Because you give a guy trace amounts and it doesn't harm him for a long time. It just slowly ages him and deteriorates him. And most mental illness is physically based. Fluoridation of the water drops IQ by a good 11 IQ, full-scale IQ points, maybe 13 full-scale IQ points. Study after study have replicated this. Yet it's still the predominant thing. It's still legal to do that in the United States of America, but it's been illegal to fluoridate water in every country in Europe for more than 2 decades. So why is it we're stuck with using a rat poison? Are we the giant white rats or something? There's other things that they put into our food and into the air. Aluminum, manganese, cadmium, mercury. These things are in trace amounts in so many of the foods and products that we have that we can't avoid them. Almost all of us has a toxic load of heavy metals in us that haven't been tested or detected. A lot of us have got parasites in us. They don't test for that either. Gee, if it was really modern medicine, wouldn't you think they'd be testing for all that stuff? Wouldn't you think they'd want to know the medical causes? No, they don't care about that. So most mental illness is caused by manganese, aluminum, lead, mercury, cadmium. They even spray us with aluminum in the air. Little particulates. They inject us with aluminum. They put it in some of our antacids, our deodorants. Oh, and most of your beers in aluminum cans. Most of your soft drinks in aluminum cans. Folks, aluminum's associated with dementia. You want to know why there's rampant dementia? Rampant aluminum. Most of your bipolar disorders and your autism is caused by all kinds of a combination of that stuff, particularly manganese. Manganese spiking. And they were putting that in cereals and infant soy formula. I'll get into that in another video. I'm sorry I'm going way over time. Thank you for staying here this long. I will say this, you do get blessed towards the end of my videos because I don't even know what I'm going to say, folks. I'm kind of surprised myself at the stuff that comes out of my own mouth. Okay, bye-bye.